Hi, I'm Spider Dan, and I just went on a date with the devil. We went to see Spider-Man Homecoming. What do you think?
I thought that it was surprisingly good. Are those your reviewer webs?
Yeah.
Shooting out
Yeah,
lights?
these are my teaser webs.
I wasn't really hyped for this movie, but I was like, I want to see it, and I don't want to hear anybody else's opinions about it, really.
Yeah.
I want to form my own.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did for the most part. Like, I heard people liked it, but I'm glad that I didn't really know much about it. So, I really liked it. I had a great time.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I do think to a certain degree we should say that, like, we come at it from very different points of view. Like, I grew up with Spider-Man. I have tapes of me at 3 years old singing the 60s Spider-Man theme song.
Aww.
I have all this going on.
There's more.
There is more. I have very specific feelings about what Spider-Man is. If you want to know what my feelings are, go watch Spectacular Spider-Man, because it's on point. I was cautious. I didn't think the trailers were very good. They certainly did not sell what this movie ended up being, in my opinion. I mean, having seen the movie, I still think the trailers are terrible.
Yeah.
If not even more than I thought before. I started hearing positive buzz, but I too try to stay away from it. I thought this movie was really fun, and I'm going to try not to be as negative as I feel like I'm trending towards, because I know the movie was good, and I really enjoyed it. Being someone who's a fan, you have very particular feelings about things, and it's hard not to let that cloud your feeling. You know, like, right off the bat, Tom Holland was great. I think the humor was on point. I think it was probably the best superhero comedy we've had.
Period?
Bar none, yeah.
Ooh, I think I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it felt like the first one that I was like, the genre is comedy.
Yeah.
Like, almost more than superhero. The genre is comedy. And yeah, we have things like Guardians and stuff, but to me that's like, let's be offbeat and like weird. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. This felt like it's like a kind of classic comedy, and
but the jokes felt fresh and witty and smart. But I will agree that it did feel like it was hitting more of the classic comedy notes, not tropes really, but.
And Guardians is a hard example, but generally Marvel movies are like, we're just not taking ourselves that seriously, or we have some witty one-liners, right? Whereas this really did feel like in the DNA of the film was a comedy.
Yeah.
And so what I'll say that I think stuck out to me that was difficult about the film as a Spider-Man fan was it felt like he was almost too immature to me, and I appreciate that it made it very fresh and a very different take than we've seen before, because it was all about he is a kid,
right?
But it almost felt like he hadn't learned the with great power comes great responsibility lesson to me. Like, it almost felt like it was like a variation on like his pre-Uncle Ben dying behavior, as far as like, I want fame and I want like recognition and I want to have fun. And not to say that he didn't like want to do good, obviously, like he kept choosing like the heroic thing over and over. So I'm not saying that, but it almost felt like giving, like, to me, Peter Parker is like mature beyond his years. And so I didn't really feel that he, like, as far as like him feeling like, it was more like he felt like he wanted to do things, he wanted to prove himself, wanted this and wanted that, as opposed to feeling like that he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. And to me, that felt a little bit off. And it made it so that it felt harder for me to relate to him, because it felt more like he wanted something as opposed to he needed something, or that he couldn't catch a break, right? Because this is like, oh, he can't catch a break in a very non-relatable thing, which is, oh, I want to be an Avenger. You know, like,
So just to cut in, before going back to, like, he's just a kid.
Yeah.
Before the movie, I was like, this feels like the first really kid-friendly Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like, one that kids will probably feel like it's made for them.
Yeah.
If not more so than for the adults.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, not at all, no.
And I think that helps with its freshness. Like, it's not so dark and it doesn't resonate with the same, like, the world is ending tones. Which sometimes you need.
Oh, I will say I think it's 100% great that the scale of this movie, like in what he had to defeat at the end, I think that was all fantastic.
Neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Going back to what you were saying about, like, what his priorities are and responsibilities are, that's something where I wasn't as expecting it because I was thinking kids are going to relate to him.
Yeah.
And I think the part that they'll relate to is wanting to be seen as adults and treated like adults. Yeah. Whereas for us, being adults, there is less, or older, at the very least, we have less to relate to there.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I definitely felt very old watching this movie. Which I was bummed about because I think Teenage Spider-Man, when handled right, has a sort of universal relatability. And I felt... I think it was very fresh that they were focusing on, like, the parent idea. They're like, they'd be like, I want to be treated, you were saying, like, I want to be treated with respect. I don't want the training wheels protocol. I don't want the baby, the baby cam, whatever it was. And I want, the respect of Tony Stark, my dad figure. Mm-hmm. And I think that was interesting, and I definitely do think that would be relatable to someone like 14, 15. I just think that, to me, what works really well usually is that he has sort of a universal relatability of the world keeps hitting me while I'm down. Mm. And I didn't really feel that way at this movie.
I think that's something... So this is like a non-origin story.
Yeah.
He's not showing him getting his powers and learning about the stuff from the beginning, but he isn't the true, like, Spider-Man yet. It is him...
Spider-Boy.
He is Spider-Boy, yes. It is him
being... Spider-Boy.
I'm gonna take him away from you. So anyway, it's him still becoming Spider-Man, and I think that's what you're kind of getting at. Of, like, he feels so childish and immature, and I'm like, I think that's because that was the lesson he was learning in this movie. Yeah. And I have very little knowledge of Spider-Man to the point where I didn't even know that people felt this connection to him that much. Like, that he was, for a lot of people, they're like, number one.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah, you're only until recently, until you sort of met me, your main knowledge was the old Tobey Maguire movies. Yeah. And you were just like, whatever.
Yeah, I was just like, whatever, it's early 2000s.
Yeah. It's early superhero movies.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what they were doing.
Right. And, so it was like one of those things where I'm like, it's of that era. They all are like that.
Yeah.
No. He means a lot to so many.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
And I can respect that.
Yeah.
So, but for me, that's why I'm, like, more willing to go along with the movie canon as opposed to... Because I'm not bringing back...
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is, am I trying to say, objectively, was this good or was this bad? Or am I giving my own personal take on it as a fan? I don't know. My point being that, like, I think that focusing on that relationship of being a kid and feel like that is a relatable thing in general, and I think it was well handled, and I think that the way they handled Tony was good.
Yeah.
I just personally, I was worried about this from the beginning, honestly. I don't really like Spider-Man in a greater universe. I mean, I like him when it's Civil War and he's popping in and adding to that, but when it's focused on him, I don't want him to be able to be saved by Tony Stark. I don't want him to be focused on wanting to be a famous person, which I think the end of this movie kind of helps with that. I
think well, that's what I'm gonna say. At the end of the day, the moment where he's screaming for help under the rubble, it's like he's expecting Tony to come save him again, like the way in the water. Yeah. And he's asking for it, and then he's like, "No, I'm capable. Yeah. I want to do this. Yeah. I can do this." And he chooses to keep his feet on the ground. He chooses to be small scale, and I think that was an active, like, that's an important choice.
Yeah, So first, I want to quickly throw in that moment of him coming out of the rubble and stuff. That is a direct homage to a major classic comic book moment. So I thought that was
because it looked very
familiar, like
it looked on purpose. It looked deliberate.
Yeah, yeah.
It looked deliberate.
So that was a great moment. I'm interested for you. I thought, yes, I was happy at the end that he chose, I want to be a neighborhood Spider-Man. I want to, go stay in high school and figure my way out. I don't really know from what I saw in the movie, got him to that point.
Huh.
Because that was the thing. I actually feel like the movie was very fun. I enjoyed all the scenes. I think all the characters worked really well. We'll go through more of the characters and stuff like that. And I also think they set up things really well. The fact that they set up the moving early on, and that they kept, I think that things paid off well, especially with the switcheroo, the revelation that Vulture is the father. They sort of set that up well too. But as far as the actual arc goes, like if you don't think about it, it's like whatever. This is a fun movie. It's great. But if you think about it, it's like okay, so Spider-Man wanted this thing. Over and over and over again, he made the same choice of I'm choosing to help people and to do this over my friends and my classmates.
Right.
Makes the same choice every time, doesn't change. He keeps trying his best, and then he continues to try his best, and this time he succeeds. So that's like, he doesn't try different tactics,
I'll disagree with you there, because his whole thing is he tries and he fails and he succeeds and then he fails more.
Yeah.
And then Tony takes it away from him.
Yeah.
And he's left at square one again.
Yeah.
He is left with little to nothing, and he has to rebuild these relationships and rebuild these friendships and earn the trust of the people around him again. Like truly, before he can get to Tony, it's his friends and his classmates.
Yeah.
That starts to be important to him again.
Yeah.
And it's not just that bigger picture stuff of I need to get to be an Avenger.
Yeah.
And then when he is being faced with Michael Keaton's Vulture, evil, Vulture of Evil.
Yeah.
Is that a character from the comic?
The Vulture?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Well, specifically that guy.
That take on it?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. As far as I know, this is a new version of the character.
But is this how the Vulture presents?
What are you asking?
What I'm saying, does he have these big mechanical wings? Does he have
He flies around with giant wings. I'm sure in some of the more recent comics they've been more tech based. Usually they're more just wing looking.
Okay, that was my question of whether or not it was scientific based or a mutation of something.
No, it's almost always scientific based. It's almost always he has some sort of suit or glider or some sort of thing.
Okay. So, I was wondering that the whole... See, I'm not even familiar with the villains. But after he's faced with that first on a human person-to-person level, he's faced with this dilemma of what do I choose? And he tries at that moment, after wanting it, to choose the normal route. And then when he goes after Vulture... he's not going after him for the sake of glory or anything. He's going after him for the sake of what's right and what he can't help but do.
Yeah.
And I think that brings back, that's his arc.
Well, I think also, in
addition to at the end
I want to throw out there for people, we literally just got back from the movie and we haven't talked about this at all and I haven't really thought of it. So I'm sort of working through my thoughts here. Yeah. And I think that the answer to what led Spider-Man to choose to stay and be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is supposed to be Vulture. That Vulture's speech about how Tony got his powers and how you beat down the little man and all that stuff. I think that's interesting, and I generally want to say I think Vulture was handled really well.
Michael Keaton is great.
Michael Keaton's great. I think that they it wasn't perfect, but generally his motivation I thought was strong. The whole thing of him being Liz's dad was handled hilariously.
Did you know that was gonna happen?
No, I had no idea.
I loved it.
I thought it was really funny and it added so much stakes because that's the thing is when I heard this is gonna be Vulture, I'm like, what is the what's the personal motivation here? Mm-hmm. Because Vulture has always been and a lot of Spider-Man's villains are this is a fun one-off comic or this is a fun episode of a TV show.
You told me about that, and from what I remember and have seen in the cartoon, it's they're goofy, they're weird, they're evil for the sake of evil.
Well, not even necessarily against that, but what is the personal connect? What does it say about him as a person when he fights the Shocker?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And so I think the fact that Shocker was such a henchman that it went from one person to another person, I thought was great. But yeah, the fact that they tied it into Liz, and then that they tied it into sort of the small scale hero, like the small scale little guy thing, and fighting against the big guy, I think that worked. I think there were a few ideas that they had that they could have gone further with, as far as so at the end when Michelle reveals herself as MJ and is like, now I have friends or whatever.
Yeah.
I assume she means she's bonded with the academic thing, right?
Yeah, decathlon.
Yeah. I don't think they really showed that.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think they showed them bonding.
So considering that was Zendaya, and I was like, oh, she's a name. She's more well known than Tom Holland.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was like, she's bringing a lot of buzz. She's gonna have a bigger part, and I loved her character.
Yeah,
like it was really fun and funny.
Yeah.
But I thought she would play a bigger part in it, and it feels like they were like, this really is focused more on Peter.
And it's also focused more on Spider-Man. Like, as much as I think that what we got of him as Peter, I think, was good, but we got very little Aunt May. We got very little of him actually at school. And I think that was, again, part of why I disconnected with it and didn't feel like it was the Spider-Man that I wanted. Because I want, like, at least equal Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And even when we got Peter Parker, a lot of it was with his friend, who I love Ned, I want to say, Ned is great. But Ned knew about Spider-Man, and so even when he was with Ned, it was still about Spider-Man.
Being Spider-Man.
Yeah, so like...
I was surprised at that. I was like, wow, they really jumped the gun here, because part of how I see Spider-Man is he's protecting his identity. Like the two separate identities and trying to keep them separate.
Yeah. And that's what I think they handled that really well with things like the trip. But the thing is, the problem is I felt like there wasn't enough consequences. The setup of him skipping out on DC and skipping out on the closeness pool thing, and then like missing the decathlon thing, that felt like really good setup with like no real consequences there. It felt...
Well, the consequences were it brought him lower.
Yeah.
And it was something for him to build back up again.
Well, but it didn't really bring him lower. Think about it.
I disagree.
Well, no, because the thing, he did that, right? And then he saved them, and he was he was being alien, like, he started doing worse in his classes. He was considering dropping out of high school. Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think...
so un-Peter Parker.
Yeah, exactly. But that was all him making these choices. To me, I feel like in the Spider-Man thing, it's like, oh, he made I feel like it should be, oh, he made the hard choice of going after the bad guy because that was right, and now he's going to be smacked in the face for that choice, and it's going to suck. And I don't feel like it sucked. I feel like the actual coming down, like, oh, you need to build yourself back up moment, was with Tony after the ship.
Yeah.
And I think it should have, to me, it would have made more sense if those two things were more tied together, which is, as soon as Tony does that, also Liz is like, screw you, I'm not going to talk to you, or even like Ned gets upset with him, and Aunt May is hurt, and like...
I was expecting... Well, Aunt May... Even that is resolved quickly, of like, Aunt May starts to be disappointed, and it's like, and it's gone. The fact that Ned was always, like, I thought that when they showed Ned alone at the party, it was going to be like, oh crap, their friendship is fucked.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, but I'm happy for Ned.
Yeah, Ned is great. Okay, so I'll switch it around to more positive stuff. I think Ned was really funny. I think it really adds... I do think, as much as I was saying I want more of Peter, I think it adds that he has someone to bounce off of.
Is Ned a person in the comics?
Not that I know of. It seems like he's kind of an amalgamation of other characters that we've seen, but clearly they aren't going that hardcore with secret identities in the MCU at all, especially at the end with Aunt May finding out. And... So,
what do you think of... I mean, we saw her in Civil War, but what do you think of hot... Aunt May. Young Aunt May.
So, she's
not an elderly woman.
I was a little surprised that they, like, put her in, like, those glasses, and, like, I felt like there was, like, sort of weird mixed messaging of, like, she was still young and attractive, but also, like, feel like they were trying to make her look older.
They were, but I think it was also, like, she's cool, she's retro.
Yeah.
Like, she's hip in a weird, like, vintage way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was, to me, Michelle and Aunt May felt like sub-characters for the sequel.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, it feels like they're saving the true, like, he's deciding between, like, ruining one or ruining the other.
Yeah.
That feels like a sequel problem.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I think that I think Aunt May and Michelle were both good, but they barely got anything because I think that they were set up. It's like, oh, we end with finding out she's MJ, so she's gonna be important next movie. We end with Aunt May finding out, so clearly she's gonna have a much bigger role in the next movie.
Which for an actress, I think is Marisa Tomei.
Yeah.
Of her caliber, like you would expect her to have a bigger
part. Although I feel like we had some big people playing Aunt May in the past too that also didn't get that much, but. I think that there could definitely have been more, and also the fact that early on he like sort of drops to Ned. It's like, oh, I can't, like, after everything that she went through or whatever.
So
like,
her development, her backstory is going to be.
Yeah, I guess I understand why they avoided Uncle Ben entirely in this movie, but personally, I think that was a mistake.
I think they should have mentioned him at the very least.
Yeah, because I understand that it would be hard for it not to be cheesy. Like, I was expecting, like, oh, something happens and he flashes back to it or something. I didn't feel any weight to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it should be weighing on him that Uncle Ben recently died.
Yeah.
And it should be weighing on Aunt May. And, and I think that they, like, you didn't have to have him have a flashback, but they should have talked about it.
It's, like, less skillfully hinting at the sequel.
Yeah. I think she was good. I think Michelle was really funny. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see where it goes. She was good enough that, like, I was kind of going into this and, like, hearing about the movie, I was kind of like, why does she have to be MJ? Like, she clearly is nothing like the character of MJ. Why can't she just be Michelle if they want to have a different character?
Right.
I was like, you know what? I don't care. She's good. I'll let this go.
Like, I'm like, if you're remixing some things and, like, let's have a different version of MJ. Let's go beyond the redhead.
Yeah. I think she was good. I think Ned was good. Vulture, I think the
fact that it was Michael Keaton helped it a lot.
Menacing. He had a pretty solid motivation. He had a low-scale motivation.
I love that he's played Batman, Birdman, and now Vulture.
I feel like he just said yes because, like, oh, that would be funny.
Like, part of him feels like he's trolling, right?
Oh my god, it's really funny.
I have to say, just as, like, a side note, for a lot of the, like, bit parts were, like, actors who you would know from, like, TV and some degree movies. Like, it was kind of, I wouldn't call it star-studded. It's, like, very much C and D-list people.
Cult-studded.
Well, yeah, but it's just, like, one of those things where if you're involved in a lot of, like, TV watching, you're like, I know that person and 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 that person, and that's kind of cool. Donald Glover.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a good transition. To Donald
that's
Glover.
Actually exactly why I brought it up. Donald Glover, you know, like Donald for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
From way back when.
Yeah, people wanted him for Amazing Spider-Man, and he was pushing it for himself.
Yeah.
Clearly that didn't happen. Now he's way aged out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, he did the voice of a Spider-Man, I think.
Okay, I'm not aware of that.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I know he did some voice acting. Yeah, so him being this, you know, gangster, I'm like, this feels weird.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when he was buying the weapons in that opening scene, I assumed he was undercover.
Me too. I
was like, there's no way that after all that, and after being like, I want to be Spider-Man, and I want to break down stereotypes, then he's like, you know what I'll do? I'll play a gangster.
Who just wants to stick him up.
Yeah, that seems...
Especially with everything he's doing with, like, Atlanta and his music career.
It seems like a weird choice. Now, I will say his second scene I thought was great.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I'm just like, well, he was at least they gave him some layers, and he was really funny.
Yeah.
And he wasn't funny just like, oh, I'm so gangsta, kind of like, he was just funny.
He played himself just in this character setting, I guess. I don't, like, how he would...
And also the voice, the Spider-Man Batman voice.
You have to get better at this part. Like, I'm like, okay, so maybe in the next movie, he's going to be better at this part, you know, it's hinting at it.
Yeah.
I liked it. I'm assuming he ate the ice cream that was in his trunk.
I also just kind of loved that, like, oh, I have ice cream, and he's like, you're a criminal, I don't feel bad. Like,
it was really funny.
Man, there were so many great moments.
Yeah, the witty one-liners, the jokes, and just, like, the things happening in the background almost. I think that's really what made the tone so great. Like, the audience was laughing, and then it would, like, settle, and then there'd be, like, another round of laughing and giggling at a joke.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my god, Captain America.
Oh, yes, let's talk about Captain America.
Oh, god. I know how you're saying, like, oh, I don't want him to be involved with everything else.
Yeah.
But, like, I can understand how you don't want that with Tony being a father figure,
Yeah.
but I love the fact that Cap is like used for these after school special
Yeah, no, that was amazing. That was
VHS
amazing.
things.
Yeah. About Tony, like, it certainly added something new. And when you're on your third reboot, or like your second reboot, I guess, you need to be doing something new.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get it. I think it worked. It's not what I want, and I still feel like I haven't really ever gotten what I want from any of these versions. But it's still good. It still feels like at its core that I'm seeing Spider-Man, and I think Tom Holland is amazing.
Mm-hmm. The little gymnast acrobat that he is.
He's really funny. I will say I was a little bit disappointed with the amount of banter while they were fighting. I think he was great in the first third, as far as like when he was fighting the guys in the Avengers masks.
Right.
And then when he called them Big Bird when he first saw Vulture. But then I think I kind of guess he's like didn't do it anymore. If you think about it, like in the entire third act, like even at the most dramatic moments, he should still be doing it. Like in the third act, he should still be doing it.
Okay.
Again, I have very specific feelings.
I think I know you do. The way I saw, I got enough of that from his like talking to Karen.
Karen was awesome.
Karen the suit.
Yeah, I mean like that's an amazing thing where I have to admit to myself like generally the idea of him like having a Tony suit I'm like against because I'm like he should be small scale. He doesn't need tech.
Yeah.
But this is a perfect example where I'm like, well, I'm proven wrong. Sometimes Kank is good.
Yeah.
Because
His
Spider-Man
own
playing
Jarvis
off
named
like
Hair.
Spider-Man playing off like the ultimate straight man ever is perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody like, this is your moment to kiss Liz. And
yeah, to kiss her as you're hanging upside down. So funny.
Yeah.
I wonder if the thing I can't help thinking about is because we are of that generation, or at least I feel I am, and he would be. Is the Karen is the robot wife of Plankton from SpongeBob.
Oh.
And that's kind of probably my biggest association with the name Karen.
That's funny.
So
I was trying to figure out if it was a reference to some character, but as far as I can remember, I can't think of a Karen that matters. I'm sure there's probably is someone. I bet it's a reference to something, but that's interesting. I hadn't thought of the Plankton thing.
Yeah, so I was just like, oh, maybe he's a teenager. He's gonna think about SpongeBob.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like that. Was the news person on the TV Betty Brant? It said like her name, but that's a character. That's like a love interest of his.
Oh, I didn't know.
On the girl,
like
you know,
the
PSA.
The PSA. It was Betty Brant.
So
I didn't know that.
And she was saying goodbye to Liz at the end, I think, too. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I freaking love those awkward school reporters.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
That stuff was so great. Like the school itself was really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he would be going to like an advanced school where everybody's like smart.
Yeah.
But even then there are losers.
I liked what they did with Flash. That Flash was like clearly jealous of it. It was a very different take on Flash and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's smart too, but is also it's still a douche, but like he wants
also the fact that they were all at the smart school made it more believable that Liz was actually into him.
Yeah.
I feel like
she's into his intelligence
exactly.
And also I appreciated his resources.
Yeah.
And his teachers like giving him those benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Again, it was one of those things that I'm not usually a fan of, which is that Ned was like his tech person. He doesn't need a gadget guy. He's not James Bond. Like he makes his own stuff.
Well, I think it was a thing of like, you know, he's on the ground. He could do it himself, and he made the web shooters himself even before. Yeah. And he was coming up with the formula himself. All of that. It's just that like Ned wanted to be the guy in the chair, and he.
That was such a great line too. In that whole
it was so good.
And the thing with I was just looking at porn. That was great.
My God, that laugh though.
Yeah, that was
the laugh that just resonated. Like people cheered for that joke.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, like like that's a weird choice.
Yeah. I'm down with accepting that like Peter is the scientist and Ned is the computer scientist, which is two different things.
Yeah, it makes sense for a school full of gifted kids.
Yeah. Gifted youngsters, one might say.
All right, so here's my question. I feel like we've talked around it, we've talked about all this stuff.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, at the end of the night, what are you rating this movie? How many skulls?
How many flaming skulls am I giving it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is it's a very hard one for me to rate because, see, like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. On an enjoyment level, I would say 4 out of 5. I think it's hard because I do think that there are some, like, significant issues with the way that the arc went. Mm-hmm. But that still seems like it was still, like, because I feel like it was so strongly a comedy and the comedy worked so well for me, mm-hmm. I think 4 out of 5 in general is where I'm sticking.
I'm gonna actually, I was thinking 4 out of 5 as well, where, like, the way I see it is, if anything above a 4, like a 4.5 or a 5, that means that I would love to see it again soon, like sometime soon. Yeah. I don't really feel the need to, like, watch it again anytime soon. Yeah. Maybe ever, but...
See, now, it's interesting
really
because
enjoyed it.
I would much rather see this again, like, immediately again, than I would have with Wonder Woman. And I think comparing those two movies is very difficult. They're very different movies. Yeah. But to me, it was so fun and so comedic that watching it again sounds more enjoyable, whereas to me... Wonder Woman, like a lot of the other, like the Nolan movies, it feels like a slog to see it again. And it's like, oh, that was such a long movie. And I don't feel like I would feel like that again with this because it was so comedic throughout. Yeah. And I feel like I catch things that I missed the first time and things like that.
I think with this one, there's definitely more in the back. Like, it's also Marvel, so they're going to layer their Easter eggs and a few other things. So... Yeah, I think there would be more to catch, but for me, because it was so heavily comedic, I'm like, oh, I know the jokes
now.
And that's not a bad thing, because the jokes will hold up, but for me, because it doesn't have that personally immediate rewatchability, the highest I can give it is a 4. Yeah. But it also deserves that 4 because it was really good. Yeah. So it's not like a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think...
It's not an insult to it, it's just me personally.
And that's the thing is, I think that the fact that I enjoyed it as much as I did, even with all of my things sort of holding me back from fully enjoying it, shows to me that it was a very well done film. Yeah. Like, that even with all my baggage, I managed to still have a really enjoyable time. And I would be happy to watch it again soon.
You probably will.
Yeah, I probably will.
Knowing your life.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say before we end, do you feel like we talked about Liz enough? Because I feel like we barely touched on her. I mean, there's not that much to touch on.
I was thinking about that. I don't really know what to say about her. I liked her. Yeah. I liked the performance. I liked the actress. Yeah. I don't know if she's a real character.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask how you feel about how the movie handled women in general. Because I think all of them were smart, strong women who were successful in their own ways. Mm-hmm. But they also didn't have much to them.
So I was thinking that too, where I'm like, she didn't really do that much. Yeah. I think that us not being inclined to talk about her speaks more than us being able to talk about her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the one thing that's very important to mention is that she didn't become the damsel in distress, that there was no saving Liz moment.
What are you talking about?
Oh.
The elevator.
Okay, but to me that was saving everybody. To me that's a little bit different.
Okay.
I mean, if you disagree, that's fine. But if it was her alone, I would agree with you.
I think it's different because of her trying to not bully Peter, but be like, "What is going on with you? Like, get your shit together, get it together, figure it out," and then being saved, and then it being like, "I don't even care about that. Yeah, I'm alive. Just like." But seriously, figure it out. Yeah. And then him kind of running it back, figuring it out. Like, I guess
the reason I didn't even think about that, honestly, is because it was no, like, oh, the villain takes his girlfriend and he has to go rescue her. Like, this was, like...
Well, I think it's another thing of even her, of, like, Vulture being like, but you saved her life, so I'm going to give you this one chance. And it's like, treat her right, but not too right. Like, all this stuff, like, it still has... While it was a great twist and I liked it, it's still like the men in her life it's following the story.
Well, but the thing is,
her life more so than herself.
Okay, well, yes, that's true, but at the same time, I don't think, like, for Peter, he never entered into that. Like, he wasn't like talking about Liz. Liz was a motivation for Vulture, but as far as Peter versus the Vulture, Liz wasn't really a factor as much as it was that it made it odd. And that's part of why he saved him.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, like, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to talk about Liz now, the two men are going to talk about her while she's not there. It was really just Vulture. This is ingrained who Vulture is.
Yeah.
But I get where you're coming from. I will say I do like that A, Peter saved him, and B, in the after credit sequence, it seems like Vulture
is grateful
for that.
Yeah.
I think that's really nice.
I like that type.
It's moments like that that, like, most of the Marvel villains are missing. That little things that just add a little bit of complexity.
Yeah. But overall, my favorite thing is that she was smart.
Yeah. And
I think it made it make sense that a senior would go out with, like, a sophomore. Like, what kind of thing is that?
Yeah. I think there's room to grow, but I'm expecting it to happen in the sequel because of the way they set up MJ and Aunt May.
I think it was one of those cases where, like, while this wasn't the classic Spider-Man origin story, it was like a 1.5.
Yeah.
So the jump to 2 is, like, so close that it's not going to feel like, and now we actually get to tell a story.
Yeah.
But they also get to tell more of a story. So, yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you thought of Spider-Man Homecoming, and check out our other Dates with the Devils, our other discussions of various films.
See if Dan has more thematic ski masks.
I don't think that I do, but if you want me to, I can go out and buy so many thematic ski masks. Get me an Okja mask.
Oh, God, that's horrifying.
Atomic Blonde, tell us we're weird blonde mask.
We're gonna be releasing Atomic Blonde later because we've already seen it.
It's great. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching,
and we'll see you in hell.
Spider-Man, friend of neighbor Spider-Man, bend the web and his eyes, can't you see? Just like Christ, you go. Here comes the Spider-Man.